This week I've got Corey Overtime Anderson on the podcast. Corey is the Bellator MMA light heavyweight champion. Corey has a long history in both collegiate wrestling and then in MMA, both in the UFC and now in the Bellator series. But this conversation is not about Corey's MMA career. It's about what we love to talk about here, and that's hunting and archery. I met Corey briefly at the Winter Strong event for Sornex Outdoors about a month ago here in Lexington, South Carolina. And I've actually got to know him better since the event. It's a big event, and I didn't get to know him very well while I was there, but he's a great, great guy, really strong in his faith, but a heck of an archer and a hunter. The way that I actually got to know him or kind of recognized him was there's an event that happens every year where you have to shoot off for teams. It's a 62-yard archery shoot off. You get one arrow. And there was a bunch of guys here from all over the country that are really, really well-known hunters, great archers, that you kind of expect one of those guys to be the winner. And I think 12 or 13 of them had shot, and Corey stepped up to the line and put just a ringer in at 62 yards. And the more I learned about Corey, the more I realized that archery and hunting is kind of his safe place. That's the place where he gets away from all the pressures of his fight career, all the stuff having to do with work and business. And that's where he goes and rests his mind, which is so true of most of us that love to do what we do. So I appreciate Corey jumping on. We had a great conversation. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you for spending your time here with me. There's a lot of podcasts you could be listening to. I appreciate the fact that you choose this one. It will help me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts if you use one of those two for your audio to leave a review and give me a follow. And if you're watching this on Instagram and can leave a comment, that's great, as well as a subscribe or a like. So comments everywhere help me a ton. And I really appreciate you being here. Enjoy the podcast with Corey. Corey Anderson, welcome to the podcast, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Eric. How about yourself?
I'm great. I appreciate you being here. We met at Winter Strong. Didn't get to talk a whole lot. I've actually gotten to know you better since you left, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. The first thing that I'm asking everybody out of the gate, just this winter, are what are a couple things from last season that as you look back on the season, evaluate everything that you did and think, okay, there's either an opportunity there or something that I missed that I want to do better next year that you're going to take into next fall?
Hunt better based off of wind and like not just the wind. Like I always go in on wind direction. The wind direction is coming northeast. I wind in my face as I'm walking in. But this year, my main goal was to kill my buck on my property. Usually I kill my buck on a permission property. And this year, the goal was to kill the buck on one of my properties. So each state, Kentucky, Indiana, wherever I was, do it on one of my properties. So
how many do you have? How many different properties
3
do you have that you're hunting? 3?
Well, properties I hunt, I have a lot. I got.
Well, how many that you own?
3.
Okay.
So the big thing for me this year was I pretty much, when that buck was trying to come on camera, I was trying to get down there as much as possible. I know sometimes it wasn't the ideal win. It was a good win, but it wasn't the best win. And that's because it was like, if I'm going to get just the buck off my property, I got to just hunt my property. You know, 155 acres, the one I was hunting the most. Like, so I got different ways I can go. It's a trail cut around the whole property with trails weaving in and out. So I can get to different spots without giving off my scent. But at the same time, if I have more access. But my goal was just to kill a buck of a certain category, a certain size. I could have went to another property where I know the wind was perfect to get in, where they would never even knew I was there at all. There was no chance of my scent going to a neighboring property or to where I think the bedding might be. There was no chance of a swirl. But since I was focused on one property only, I was trying to find different routes and different ways and figure out my property a little better. But next year, the goal is going to be just to capitalize on wind direction, the perfect days, the pressure. The one thing we learned from Joe and the guy and Bert was talking about the funnels, the natural funnels. Try to capitalize more using that. I've already been down to my property a few times and a few other properties, finding out those natural funnels was going to force deer to come in one way. And so with that info and checking the weather and the predictions with the Spartan Forge, I'm hoping to have less time spent in the woods and more time capitalizing the woods, like not just sitting out there hoping I'm going to see one or this is capitalize on information I know from the cameras, from the wind directions, from the one they normally traveling, taking notes, and get in there and knowing, like, all right, today got a 10-degree weather drop or super cold with the wind blowing directly in my face. I already know if I get in there, that buck should be coming out like 45 minutes or whatever and get the shot off early. Improve like the information I've been putting together is actually working, adding up.
Are you going to hunt your properties exclusively this fall?
No,
or are you still going to hunt some of your permission stuff?
No, this year I'm going to hunt permissions. I'm hunting mine. Like I do a lot of travel hunting. In Jersey, I have a lot of permission farms. Permission farms and urban spots. I don't own anything in Jersey. So there, I have many different properties. Kentucky, I got a couple. Indiana, I got 2 I own and a handful of permission farms. I got small permission in Illinois. So I'm just going to try to put all the information I have to capitalize on. Not saying I'm searching for only big bucks, but for a good buck or a good deer and to fill my freezer as much as possible using information I learned through this off year.
So you just brought something up. We were at Winter Strong together, and for people that don't know what that is, can you just, in your own way, describe what the Winter Strong event is, so that people can understand that?
I would put it as an awesome event of networking and building bonds, relationships, and friendships that would probably last a lifetime with different people from different avenues. You're learning different things that can help you out throughout life, like sharpening a knife. That was something I just taught myself, got a grindstone, just be rubbing the knife against the rock, hoping it's getting sharp enough. But you have work sharp there teaching you actually how to properly sharp a blade, get the edge, you get to use the ceramic to get the point back to where it's supposed to, and the leather to get the edges off and all smooth. Then you had the group there teaching how to can and jar, which is something my wife wanted to do with the homesteading. So I videoed that to come back and share that info with her. So now not only do we do the garden, but we know how to can and jar and how long it can last. It's just a plethora of great information and great people where you're networking. And again, like you mentioned, I do a lot with archery. And I'm pretty sure when I got there, I don't think anybody would have expected me to be as big in archery as I am. A lot of people knew me as a fighter, and they knew I did hunting, but they had no clue I was so dialed in with my bow. And like, I'd rather be behind the bow than in the cage any day of the week.
Was this the first? Have you been before? Or was
No,
this the first time you went?
that was my first time. I've been invited in many years, but I've always had a fight during that time.
Yeah. And so the other thing, too, for people to know is, so this is sponsored by Sorinex Outdoors, which is a division of Sorinex, the company that makes all the training equipment that's in most college athletic weight rooms, NFL, NBA, a lot of the professional in the MMA weight rooms. They make the sturdiest, strongest weight training stuff in the world, actually. And Bert Soren's the owner. Sorinex Outdoors is this component of it because Bert's a huge outdoorsman. This thing started 5 years ago with about 30 guys, and it's grown into an invitation-only event with people from all over the country, and they only accept about 250 people every year. But like you said, they've got all these different courses, and it's just a great opportunity for a bunch of guys, like you said, from every walk of life. I mean, I met people who own companies that do promotion for like the Zach Brown band, right? And then there's guys like you who are professional athletes, and then there's a couple guys there that used to play in the NFL. I coached college football for 30 years. There's guys that own outdoors companies from out west that travel in. So it's insane the different kind of people there. But the classes are really, there's all these different opportunities to learn. And you just mentioned something that I want to dig a little deeper on. There was an entire morning spent on identifying, setting up rut funnels, which is something that Bobby Worthington talks about a lot. Joe Miles, if you know him, he sponsored the event. He's from Osseo Gear. Or he was actually there helping us with the event, didn't sponsor it. But what did you learn about rut funnels and identifying and setting them up there that you didn't know going into the Winter Strong event?
I mean, I knew a little bit, but I think the biggest thing I took from that is when we took us to that last funnel over there by the highway. It was the water, and they showed us on the Spartan Forge app, and you don't realize it's like an actual highway. Like I thought it was like a side road or a back country road or something on the map.
Yeah, it's like I-26. It's like the interstate from literally, from Charleston to it's a 4-lane or 6-lane highway.
Yeah, and then we get over there and you hear the traffic as we walk. Like, there's no way we're gonna be staying close to this. And then we walk down the hill in the spot where they're coming from, where all the trails is rubbed up and everything. Is literally right between the highway and the creek or the river, whatever that was to the right. And it was like you said, it's four. They have nowhere else to go. They can't just walk down the highway. Yes, they're across the highway, which is why they get hit a lot during the rut and when they chase them, just moseying across for food or whatever at night. But they literally have to come through here to get where they want to go. There's no other way around it. You got the road, you got these steep hills, and it comes right here on the side of the highway and it's water. You can get in this way through the kayak, or you can come off the road and park and come around this way. And that was pretty cool to realize, like, dang, they do. You're right. When you look at it on the map and all the rest of the land and where we walked in, it was really no other way. There is ways around, but they're going to follow the path of least resistance. And that was the path of least resistance, even though it seems wild, like it's a highway, but that was their easiest path. And they get used to those car noises to the point they just come through that way every day. They take that same path and they're used to it. And I would have never thought, like, oh, ain't no way they're going to be this close to the road. It's just too much traffic, people coming by. I know they don't mind the smoke and exhaust and stuff because it's in everyday life. But the fact they actually just using that trail right along the highway to get to the property, and you can see where the fence was put down, and that's a clear sign, like those deer and other animals, coyotes and everything are traveling through this little pinch where the fence is knocked down, and they're going to come right on in here and mosey onto the property. So that, like, I was kind of aware that they're going to work their way to at least resistance, and they're going to follow that easy path to get to the easiest travel course, but I just never would have thought that they was going to be that close to the highway until we got down there and saw the signs. So it makes you think, like, don't overlook any positions or any spots on your farm or permission spots. You see spots on your map, like, they wouldn't be there. But now when you go and see that, it's like, well, they got to mind their own. Can't predict what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think that's, how long have you been hunting? Your whole life?
I've been rabbit hunting and coon hunting with my dad since I was like 14, and when I got 13, I got my first bow at 13, and I deer hunted the first time at 16. I've been doing it ever since then. So
okay. So and I'm newer at this, and so a lot of learning curve for me. But the one thing I hear, and this is the podcast has been a great opportunity for me to talk to guys who are just great deer hunters. And the one thing that I kind of hear as a recurring theme is sometimes we tend to hunt deer where we think they're supposed to be instead of where they're telling us they're going to be. And I actually was just watching, I think it was a video that you posted on your It's Outdoors with Overtime YouTube channel where you were doing some postseason scouting. And the one thing that we had seen in both the rut funnels they took us to was that they had spent a lot of time following deer trails to find, a convergence of a lot of different trails. And the one that you were just talking about, there were like 5 different trails that came into that weird point where if you looked at it, if you're just walking through there, you'd never think, oh, this is a place where a bunch of trails come together. But if you had walked those trails, you'd see that, right? And that's what I saw you were doing in your property, was going out and just like you find a trail and then you'd walk to it until you can't track it anymore. And you're really trying to find where a number of those come together so that you can find a confluence of travel patterns.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, I said in that video, it's like I've hunted that area. But this is the second year I've owned this property, the one we was on the episode. And I've hunted the end of the area, and I've hunted like towards the beginning of the property around the area, but I never thought they was gonna come through that thick stuff like they did. But last year we didn't get any snow, so I didn't get a chance. Like we got little flurries, but it'll be melted by the time I get down there. This time we actually had snow, so I went down with my cameraman and we walked it, and it literally blew my mind. Like I had did a bunch of hinge cutting and some other thick brush that I expected they would come through every day. And there's like a little trail through there, but the majority of the trail is right through the middle of the woods in between that hinge cut and the food plot. They would cut through, always zigzagging till they get to the corner of the food plot, and we got the food plot fenced in so we can close it while it's growing. And they would come out literally right at the edge of where that last fence post was and just swoop around the corner. They're like, we got all these big trails for the tractors and the side-by-sides, and you would imagine they're going to follow this path right through this gate. They're going to follow the other path to the other fence way over there. Nope. When that snow showed me what I'm walking around looking like, man, how is there no signs at all? Like I see them on camera every day. And I just kept walking and walking. I hit one trail that was like beaten. Like it was probably 4 or 5 inches of snow still on the ground. But in this one trail, it was nothing but bare dirt for probably 500-600 yards. And I just followed it. And it went all the way to the other side of the property, going across this bridge and this creek that leads to the neighboring property. I was like, oh my goodness. I would have never thought they were doing all that just to get over here to go to a neighboring property. That is crazy. So, but again, I was going where I expected them to go instead of going where they wanted to go.
Yeah, well, one of the points too that, and I can't remember who it was that I had on, in the fall that somebody made was, you know, we think like we think, right? Like, okay, I'm hungry, I'm going to go to the kitchen to get food. And so lots of times we'll apply human thought to, okay, they're hungry, they're going to come to my food plot, they're going to come straight here. But when you look at the way deer travel, they don't travel on a straight line. They especially bucks, right? And mature bucks, they browse, they move, you know, in unpredictable, you know, patterns in terms of their movement, and they're eating and browsing on the way to, you know, that main food source. And so we tend to think, oh, they're going to come here this way. But like you said, they're not stupid. They stay alive for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And like another thing, Bill Thompson said when we was in the tent talking about the app and everything, he said, if you want to kill the big buck, you got to be willing not to see many deer for a few days at a time. You know what I mean? He said most guys, they go in and they'll sit on that heavy beaten trail over and over and over, and they'll see does and they'll see small bucks, but they'll never see the big buck. But if you go from that trail and you walk around, you'll find a very faint trail. And that's the trail that the buck is using. And that's because that's why that buck has lived so long. Everybody else is following this beaten trail, and that buck knows that, and he's going to sit back and he's going to watch. He's going to find a faint trail. And again, that was another thing I realized. I went to the other side of the property where I mentioned it there. I raised my hand and said, I know I had the funnel, I had a good spot, and I heard the crunch coming behind me. All of a sudden it took off, and next day I had him on camera at dark. I believe it was that buck. And I talked to Joe and Bill, and they said, well, go to that area and try to find like a faint trail from where you were sitting up on. And sure enough, I went in there with the snow. I found the heavy trail, and I went around, just walking around circles. It was a very, very faint trail. And I walked it and walked it. And it was a big old scrape and a bunch of big rub trees in the area and another scrape. And I was like, oh, my goodness. Would you look at that? I go to the other trail. There's like one small rub and a little scrape. But on that faint trail, as I walked it from the neighboring property back into my property, it was rub lines and big scrapes. And it was like, they said it. Like all the other deer are going to follow that trail. But that big buck I've been after, he's on this faint trail. So he's coming in behind me while the other ones are coming in front of me. And that's why he busted. Like that is, it's what you expect. Oh, they all coming here. They're going to follow this. Nah, that's exactly how the buck thinking. He think I'm going to be over there. So I'm going to sit back in the woods and watch him watch them until I get a scent. I'm out of here.
Yeah, that's a good point. They tend to, you know, the does tend to use those heavy trails, and so do the younger bucks. But the mature bucks, they stay off of those trails. They travel, you know, a different way, especially during the rut. You know, in which, you know, if you're setting those funnels up, that's really the whole concept of that class, right? Was to set up rut funnels. And if you're if you're setting up during the rut, the bucks tend to move perpendicular across the major trails because they can scent check them a lot easier and cover less ground by doing it that way. So that's an interesting point. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out for you. This is to harken back to something you just said a minute ago, which is, again, I had no idea. I didn't know you going into this, so I don't have any preconceived notions about whether anybody's going to make anything. But one of the things that Winter Strong has is this huge group, competition on Saturday where they break people up into teams. They do all these different competitions. Talk a little bit about what that competition, like how it's structured, and then talk a little bit about the shoot off, because that's, like you said, that was the thing that kind of, everybody was like shocked by who won the shoot off, because there's all these guys who have been coming the whole time that everyone knows are really good with a bow. They're great shots, and those are the guys you kind of think, might win it, and then you won it. So talk a little bit about that, because I thought that was a great moment. I posted that one on my Instagram, but it was that one was fun.
So the competition aspect, well, it all started with the shoot-off. So the shoot-off, we pick captains, and then everybody else competing, they line up. It's just like a schoolyard pick. We got, 12 different leaders, and we pick people down the line.
It's like the fat kid's worst nightmare, dude. Like I was having flashbacks to when I was a fat redheaded kid before I started putting on muscles in high school. I was
I felt bad when people said the end. I don't want to make it feel like I don't want to. I just, for one, I don't know them, but at the same time, I'm picking from both. It's like I remember that feeling, because I too was a fat kid at one point. I was like, that sucks. But it's cool. So we get together, you pick your team, and 13 courses, different things from, you have to sit back and you use the scouting aspects to where you only sit in the box, but you can't leave the box because you got to spot certain things around your area. I would say it's probably maybe 100-yard area around you in a circle, 100 yards that way, each way. And you got to pick out different things from elk antlers to arrows, hunting related things, and they test your cardio to where you had to run to the gun, shoot with your heart rate racing, get back, tag out your partner, do it. Same thing with archery. Then you test your mind with the puzzles and the different puzzles and the little spinning thing. What's that movie?
The Rubik's Cube?
Yeah, not the Rubik's Cube, but the one that you got to figure out the words, spin the letters to get a message on there. The message was stronger. That's what
okay. I didn't know that one.
What was the puzzle? It's a movie, Da Vinci Code. There you go. Da
Vinci Code. Okay.
You got to spin the wheel. And we always frustrated. One, you already tired from running there, so you're trying to calm yourself and think, what could this be? And they don't really give you any hints. The other hint was that they gave us is it's what we stand for.
Mm-hmm.
We think of family, Christians, Christ, this. And when it's done, he's stronger. And we all looked at each other man. How can we not figure
that one was too easy, right?
Yeah, that was a given. How did we not realize this?
Yeah.
But you got so much going on.
They've got all these teams, right? Like you said, you shoot off for captains, and then, the captains line everybody up on one side, they're on the other side, and they go down the row and pick their teams one guy at a time. And then they put you through all these different stations, and you can earn each team can earn points per station, right? Based on the way you perform. And then at the end, they add your points together. But how long did the entire thing take? It was 4 hours, right? To get through the whole thing?
A while. Yeah, before it all concluded, we started at 1:30, I believe. We picked teams, and then we met with the teams for 20 minutes, and we started 1:30, 1:45, and we didn't get back till darkish. We finished the finale as they were turning the lights and everything on, because it was dark on the hills to push us side by side. So that was fun, but it was a challenge, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's tough. What place did your team come in?
I think we fourth or fifth. No, we tied for fourth. Remember, everybody, 4 teams are tied for fourth, and we're just one of those ones. And we got docked 7 points on the pistol range because the lady didn't communicate the exact rule. So it was a situation. The gun got jammed, and he pointed at the ground, and she flagged him and said, -5 points. You can't point at the ground. At least it's not pointing at anybody, but
So where was she supposed to? She couldn't point it at the ground when she was clearing it. Where was she supposed to point it?
That's what we said. Like he was doing it down range and it was stuck. So he pointed at the ground and she's like, stop, you're done. Minus 5 points. Like for what? Like you took the gun off the table. Like, but we pointed it at the ground. So you can't.
Oh, she was supposed to keep
table.
pointing it down range. I got you. Yeah. So every skill was a skill that was focused around basically thriving in the outdoors. Some of it were mental skills, some of them were physical skills, some of them were skills, like you said, firearms, archery. But to pick the captains, like, so you had to determine who the captains were before you could pick the teams. And that was done the day before. And the way they do that every year is there's a shoot off, an archery shoot off. There's a 3D archery course here. There's a rifle range. There's a pistol range. So if you like to shoot stuff, this is a great place to be. And the 3D archery range has all these 3D targets, but there's a buck at 62 yards, at least this year. And that was it. And they put a sticker right in the middle that was from a Sornex event, a shoot to eat event. I think that sticker was, how big was that thing?
Probably the size
6
of
inches?
A styrofoam plate, the middle of a styrofoam plate.
Yeah, so maybe like 8 inches or something like that. And then it was literally anyone who wanted to be a captain could line up, and you got one shot with your arrow, and they took the 13 closest arrows. And this is the interesting thing about this, right? Like I said, there's all these stud archery guys from all over the country that are Insta famous and really good. Guys who are great elk killers, guys who are great deer killers, guys who people know in the hunting industry. And those are the guys that you kind of think are going to win. But it's interesting because this is the second time I've been. But the guys that you think are going to win usually don't win. There's always somebody that kind of comes out of nowhere. So what order were you in terms of when you shot? It wasn't like right at the beginning.
No, I wanted to go further. I go first, but people kept going. I think I was like the sixth, either 6 or 7. Like I just jumped in there behind the line.
I thought it was later than that.
No, maybe I don't know. I have to look back.
Because I was standing there with binoculars, watching them, and I want to say there was 10 or 12 shots, and no one had even hit the sticker yet.
Yeah. I don't know. I know I was the first one to hit the sticker, and I just hit the sticker. But like I said, you got to shoot.
I was going to say you planted that sucker.
Yeah, and it was like, we're going to shoot at the first O on shoot. The very first O was the bullseye. So that's what we're shooting for. And like I said, 62 yards, it's hard to focus on it. It took me a little bit longer to get the shot off, but I was literally just staring at the O, trying to find that O at 62 yards. I shoot with both eyes open, so I'm trying to focus, and I'm focused and just zooming. Like at one point, I almost false jumped. Like, I'm not on it. No, wait. I just hold it and push. I just pull. Don't move. And when it went off, I just knew. Oh yeah, that's butter. And everybody, like I turned around, everybody's faces dropped. Like, what in the world? I threw my bow up like, shoot. Like Bo Sandoval was the only person there that knew I'm a shooter. Like me and Bo, he was the head strength and conditioning guy at the UFC PI when I was in the UFC. And that's kind of how our relationship started. I used to work out with them at the UFC PI, but we never really talked. I took a picture with him once and I gave him a shout out on Instagram. Like, shout out to my man Bo for a good workout today. And he went to scroll through my Instagram and saw I shot the bow. So the next day when I came back, like, hey man, you shoot archery? Oh yeah, I shoot my bow every day. Like, man, I just moved here from, I can't remember where he moved from, but yeah, I got a bow, but I ain't shot in years. And I really want to get into it and this and that. This was like in 2017, 2018. And after that, that's when our relationship really started because we just started talking archery and hunting all the time. We didn't talk weightlifting and fighting. He'd hit me up like, oh, bro, check this out. Look what I just shot. Look at this target. And I work with these veterans in Texas, and now he lives in Texas. So I invite him out to work with us with the veterans, and we do events. So, like, we already knew, like, bringing a bow. And he already knew I was going to shoot for captain. And he said, bro, some really good, some dead-eye, dead ringers guys here. These guys are really, really good. And I said to him, like, hey, shoot, baby. You know I'm shooting. I said all the time, whether you're Kobe Bryant or you Shaquille O'Neal, you got to shoot the ball. You're either going to hit or you're going to miss. Most of the time, I'm trying to hit. So that was just one of the moments. It was like all these guys, big-time archers, and everybody know these guys for shooting. I know they don't expect me to go out here and hit it. I'm about to get the best shot I can. I'm gonna make sure I'm as focused and dialed in, and it paid off. Just sitting there on the O. Everybody was like, "Yo, who is this guy?" This big black guy with his hands up with the bow, like, "Yeah, now what? Shoot! I know y'all didn't expect it."
I did the same thing because I hadn't met you yet, and I knew, like I said, this is my second year, so I know some of the guys. I don't know everybody yet still, but there were some guys that I, like Sean Mellon, who hunts out in Montana and, has killed bulls at 100 yards. Like, he's a really good shot. There's a number of guys like that I was like, okay, those are the guys I was watching. And then you went up and I actually asked somebody, I go, who is that? And they're like, oh, that's Corey Anderson. He's an MMA guy. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I like look you up on Instagram and then you freaking ringed it. And I was like, dang, Corey can shoot.
Yeah, I remember when I went out to Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan podcast, and we've always talked about shooting too. And he put me up on this techno hunt. And even he said, Ian, like, ladies and gentlemen, Corey Anderson, he can shoot. He doesn't just shoot his bow. He can shoot. Like, I was just 12 shot, 12 ring, every shot. No matter what just popped up, like, I shoot, man. This is what I do. And a lot of people don't expect that, especially when you see me in the streets. Like, you don't expect to see me in the bow shop. Like, when I go into the bow shop and it's the fan, I'm like, wait, you're Corey Anderson, right? Like, yeah, like, what are you doing here? Like, bro, I love archery. I shoot the bow literally every day. I got 2 houses. I got a range and a bow shop at both houses. Like, I'm going to shoot my bow. I got a wall full of bows in Jersey. I got a wall full of bows in Indiana. One thing about me is I'm going to shoot my bow before I do anything else. That's just who I am. That's how I function. It's literally a way of life for me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I shoot. Like, that's, for me, it's like a mental clarity thing. I work out and I train first thing every morning. Well, I actually do my Bible study first thing in the morning. Then I go straight to the gym. I train. I get all that done before I have to go work and do meetings. And then I always go out and I shoot, like, usually middle of the afternoon after I've been in meetings for like 5 hours. And it's like, your brain stops. It's awesome. Like, I stop thinking about everything other than the bow, that's one of the things I love about it is you have to focus so much to be good at it that it removes all the crap that we spend so much time thinking about all day long.
100%. Is that what your schedule is? The same way I do it. I wake up first thing, I grab a Bible, do a morning devotion, 30, 45 minutes doing that. And I go straight from there, go to the gym, get my lift or hit the bag or train, whatever it is. If I'm in Jersey, I usually got one of my bows in the backseat of my truck. So when I come back from camp, whether it's a good training session, a bad training session, whatever it is, I just want to clear my head of it before I go in the house and spend time with the family to separate work from family. I grab my bow, park my truck right outside my range. I got 60, 70 yards there. I text the wife, like, I'm outside shooting. I'll be in a little bit, 12, 20, 30 shots, whatever it is to take. So it's like, I'm on. And I kind of forgot about practice, whatever it is. Then I go in the house. It's like, hey, now it's family man. Then before I go back to the gym, if it's sparring day, I'm going to go out and shoot again. Get my mind that killer instinct, like that focus. I'm focused on hitting that target. Same thing on my punch. I'm focused on hitting this punch. Like, I got to get dialed in. All right. Put the pin on the target. Nose to the string. Find the peak. Center it. All right. Pull it through. Bang. And it's just, everything goes hand in hand for me. And I really got that way in 2017 after a really bad knockout. I got head kick knocked out, and the coaches would let me back in the gym. And my wife is a DeQuisto, which is Lone Wolf Custom Gear. And she was like, you can't go to the gym. You love hunting. Just go outside. Go hunt. Go do something. Go get your mind off of it. And that's when I really realized, like, this is my clarity. Some people smoke weed. Some people play video games. Some people drive cars fast, motorcycles fast. I shoot my bow. And there's nothing else in the world that matters. Bills piled up, no fight. I'm injured, I'm hurt, whatever it is. I shoot my bow. It's like, wait, what was I here stressing about? Life is good.
That's right. So let's talk about your archery setup. First of all, before we even get into your bow and your arrow setup, you were talking about your pull through on the shoot off. So what release do you shoot? What release are you shooting?
The Cobra Harvester. So I used to work with Cobra, what was it, 3-4 years ago, was partnered together. And but when that first dropped, I actually ran into the guy Jake, he's the owner at a trade show. He gave me one of the first ones. I want you to check it out before we release the still. Try it out. And I've been shooting that thing ever since. Like, I just love it. The way I can adjust the sensitivity. I can set it to where it feels like a tension release, like my finger's barely on it, but once I pull it goes off. I can make it a lot colder where I have to hook and put a little more pressure on it. It's just smooth from the index releases to the thumb releases. And I haven't worked with them in like 3 years, but I still stand by those Cobra releases. Like, they're just
it's a thumb release. Are you shooting a thumb release?
Yep, Cobra thumb release.
And do you ever shoot like a hinge or a back tension or anything in the off season to work on just the pull through, or do you always stay on that same release in the off season?
Nope, I use them all. I got a shot trainer. I keep in my room, in my bedroom. It's the guest room, but I keep one like the tension thing just for rubber resistance. I got another one with the string, and I got my back tension release, the Stand Performex that was given to me by Pete Shepley and Lonnie Worksman from PSC, which work with them. So I just keep that in my robe or in my pocket or whatever, and I walk around the house and just practice pull and pull. Then I go outside and I'll shoot with the back tension or the hinge. The hinge is like, for me, it's a little harder for me to get it to go off. Like, I've learned the tricks of release the index finger, let your pinky roll it off, and it's just a little tougher for me. When I'm doing blank bailing in my bow shop at like 7-8 yards, I can get away with it pretty smooth just to get that pull, the surprise shot, not punching the trigger. But when I'm going to do distance, I'm usually using my back tension, pull until it goes off, and then relay that to the thumb button where I just hook the thumb on the knob and pull until the tension pulls it through my thumb. Yeah, so I got a little bit of everything. I only use the index releases, though, when I'm paper tuning. I feel like I can get a more steady, straight back pull with an index finger than I can with the tension when it comes to paper tuning.
Gotcha. So do you ever run into a situation where, because I'm having this situation right now, I shoot a Carter Too Simple as my thumb button release, and I bought that knock-on silverback for back tension, but the Too Simple's a little bit longer, and so
the anchor changes.
The anchor changes, yeah, and I think I'm struggling with that right now because I'm like, should I be worrying about that, or you know, I don't want to put myself in a situation where I'm getting used to a certain anchor, shooting this back tension, and then all of a sudden I moved my other release and because you know, when the Too Simple, my anchor is closer up on my face than when I go to that silverback, the anchor moves back, and I feel like I'm searching a little bit for my anchor. Do you ever run into that, or like, are yours kind of the same, or what do you have happen when you do that?
No, I used to do that when I used to go back and forth between the index and thumb. But like I said, when I'm paper tuning, I'm not really so much worried about my anchor. I just got to get it straight back and pull it through the paper. When I'm shooting at distance, I try to keep them the same. So I have the Cobra Professional, the Cobra Harvester. So the Cobra Professional is my hinge release. The Harvester is thumb button. And the Stand Performex is literally pretty much the same exact dimensions as those two. So for my hinge, thumb, and tension, they all have the same anchor, the same setup. So I put here is always this finger in the knuckle, same spot. The nose is perfect. Nothing changes. But now if I go out and do like so I was in Vegas a few months ago doing a bow review and hinge releases review and thumb release reviews. You can see on my shots, they went from when I used my Harvester, the shots like right here, all of them. And then when I started using different hinges or releases, it's one of the bullseye, one way up top, one way down low, one way to the left, one way to the right. And that's when I realized, like, man, all these things I mentioned in the video, it gives you a different anchor. So when you're choosing your hinge release, whatever it is, make sure, even if you like it, make sure it's similar to what you're practicing with all the time. Because especially when I go to elk hunt or black bear, I have my Harvester wrapped around my wrist. That's on my wrist. It's hanging there. So I always have a backup in my pouch. But one of those backups, they're always going to hit the same. Now, if I'm shooting this Harvester every day and I'm lights out with it, and I have a Carter Wise Shores or Wise, whatever other ones, the knock on, whatever it is, in my pouch, I don't shoot it as much. This release breaks and I grab my backup, my shot's going to be way off. So if I'm shooting a little bit higher, a little bit lower at 20 or 30 yards, and that elk or black bear is at 60, 70, You about to go skyrocketing over the top of that. Why? Well, I was so spot on at camp. Well, your anchor is different now. It's no longer here. Now you up here more. Or it's not here. It's back here. So you searching for that peep. And your head dip is a little bit more. So now your pin went from being here normally to actually it's here. So now you're raising your bow higher, and you're going to send that mug flying. So that's one thing where I'm teaching people, like, help people learn how to shoot archery and figure out the release. Like, now remember, if this is what you're getting set on, this is what you got to shoot, and find something similar. Now, if you switch, you have to change your D loop. You're going to change everything.
I got to do that too. I think I just got to sell that silverback and go and find something that's closer to the Carter release that I'm shooting in terms of the length of it, so that it's not changing my anchor point. So let's talk a little bit about, you've got 2 bow setups or 1?
So right now I've been using just the Bowtech, the one I shot at the Winter Storm. But I had
Which Bowtech is that you're shooting?
Proven 34, the new one, the Proven 34 long draw. I got very, very long arms, 32.5-inch reach or draw. So
you got a 32.5-inch draw.
So it's hard to find bows. Like
how long is that
one? Custom build my last one. It goes for 33.
Okay, gotcha. So you're shooting the Proven 34, and then you've got a 32-inch draw. What's your what poundage are you shooting?
That one is a 70. I had the PSE Evolve 33 long draw, and they made that, or a GS, but they made it a long draw for me, so it goes out to 32.5 exactly. And that one was an 80-pound bow. I had it turned down to 74.5. That's what I use all hunting season.
But if you're a 32-inch draw, you're getting a lot of speed out of that. What's your arrow setup then?
So last season I used the Easton Long Range, the Easton Axis Long Range of 4 millimeters, and they were 484 or 482. I have this company I was working with forever, Killing Sticks out of Canada, micro LTs. Those are 484, 482. It depends on how much glue I put on the fletchings, or if I have lighted knocks on it, then it goes up a little bit. But I'm right there around 480 to 500 when I go from the regular knock, the standard knocks, to a lighter knock, which it doesn't make much difference when you shoot that much speed. The arrow doesn't drop much.
Are they heavier just because the arrow is so much longer? Because you're having to run a long arrow because of your draw length, right? Because probably for the average person, that same arrow setup would probably be about a 440, 450 arrow, but because of the length of the arrow, you got more weight coming off of it.
Yeah. Like I literally just cut all my arrows when I put them on the cutter, just to be right below the
right there.
Probably is literally just a little knob off the end. So they send the arrow to 32, and I'll cut like half. So it goes like 31.5 or 31 3/4. I got to put the outsert on as well, so it doesn't roll up on the rest when I draw back.
So you do all your own arrow builds yourself?
I do everything. I've been doing it since the pandemic. Actually, that's actually how I really got into it, learning all about how it all works. I had a bow shop back in Jersey, and I traded a guy my time. Like, look, I know you hate fletching arrows. You teach me how to fletch arrows. I'll come in, I'll fletch arrows for you for free. You just teach me how to build a bow, like everything that goes into it. And it just so happened, right after he taught me, the pandemic hit down, so all the bow shops and everything closed down, and PSC was still sending me new bows, and I wasn't going to wait to get them set up, so I just started doing them myself. Now I only go to the bow shop to talk.
So you've got a bow press and everything at home?
Yep.
What bow press do you have?
The Last Chance Easy Press.
Okay. So what are you shooting in terms of your broadheads?
So that I very easy. I use mechanicals. I'm not a fan of fixed. I like mechanicals. I know no matter what, I can take them out the package. If I have to grab them on the way to the woods, put them out the package, put them on the arrow, and they're going to fly true, straight like a field point. I used to use Rage Hypodermics all the time. Now my buddy Rob out there in Texas, he got Trifecta. He sent me something, and those, like, every time I hit one with that, the thing was, he just sent me these new one, the Pop Locks. But before I had the older version, it didn't have a great blood trail, but I never had a deer go further than 20 yards. Like, the insides was shredded. For some reason, there was no blood to follow. I could see the deer fall. I used the Sever 1.5s or whatever they had. They sent me those. Rage Hypodermic, whatever. I had the Thorns Rift. Like, I go through different broadheads, like mechanicals each year, to see what's going to leave the best blood trail. Another thing I do is I have a tracking dog. And the big thing they teach you when you learn that is when you track a deer for somebody and you see their arrow, if they're not using a mechanical, we recommend that they use a good mechanical because it gives them a good blood trail. One, not just either for the dog, because the dog's going to find it whatever if you got a good dog from the scent, but you have the less chance of not seeing the blood. If you got a good mechanical, it's going to leave blood, and you have a better chance tracking it yourself. But if not, it'll give the handler a better chance to ID blood as we tracking with the dog, and the dog is following scent. So I've been big on the mechanical since then as well.
I think there's a lot of even people who used to be anti-mechanical, just because of the reliability of them now. A lot of them are making the move over to, like you said, the blood trail's just so. I mean, the wounds that these, like the severs and all the stuff like those, that I shot Rage tripans up until this past year, and then I shot the severs this year. But whether you're using those or the G2s or whatever, the mechanicals now are just opening up these huge wounds, and the blood trails are just enormous and so much easier to track.
Yeah, it's almost not even fair. It's like,
well, you still got to find them and shoot them. That's the hard part.
Yeah, that is the tough part. But when you got people like, I know guys that in Jersey, they just know where the deer are and they're going to kill. They're stacking does, they're getting bucks. And he sent me one where it was just bloodshed all along trees, all the way to where it died. And like, it was no problem tracking him. So I didn't have to need to bring my dog out or to find this deer. I didn't need to bring my dog out because from the moment he hit, you could see the blood squirting everywhere. And I didn't have to look down. It was all over the trees, all the way up till he dropped. And it's just like, it's devastating channels, the wound channel, but at the same time, it's great. It makes for, if you're hitting a deer, it makes for less deer getting away, like less unrecovered deer. If you can shoot, if you're shooting properly, you're gonna find that deer.
Yeah, they're typically going to not travel as far because their blood loss is going to be a lot faster. The 8-point that I shot up in Southern Illinois, I think he went 40 yards. He crossed a creek bed, went up on the other side of the creek bed, stood there for 4 or 5 minutes, and he just laid down and died. And I shot him pretty close to last light. And I didn't have any trouble tracking his blood trail in the dark, with a headlamp. It was just, it was massive, the red carpet.
It's pretty much just a red carpet. It's like they take a bucket of paint and just walking backwards and just pouring it out until they get there. I love it. That's especially in the snow. Oh man, I love seeing that snow turn red. That's a beautiful sight. Yeah,
that is a great sight. Well, listen, I want to be respectful of your time. I know you've had a big day training and you got stuff. You're training again this afternoon. You do 2 days, don't you? Gym in the afternoon?
Yep.
Yeah. So I appreciate you jumping on with me. What's in closing? I know we talked about, the things that you're going to kind of do coming out of last season. Where do you think, as you look forward, your best opportunity to take those lessons are and apply them to? Which piece of property if you had to call it today, which piece of property do you think you're going to be able to take one down on your property? Because I'm going to hold you to this later.
I mean, I went to a permission farm yesterday. I didn't hunt at all this year and look, and they got a lot of natural funnels. If I can push down some trees or something that can fell down a storm and just move them with the side by side, move them towards just force them in one way. The thing is, I didn't really see any crazy big bucks there this year. I killed a 15-point there 2 years ago, but I didn't see really anything on camera. Some 8s, some 9s, 110, but nothing, even in a rut, nothing crazy. But on my property, you use the information we learned from Joe and Bill and realize that they're coming from my neighboring property now. If I can get in there with my tractor and make the right cuts and pinch like trees to block them as they cross in the creek to lead down into the food plot the way I want them to, I feel like I can get a big one out of the new grizzly blind that I was sent and can put up and do it with my son in the blind and hopefully have him shoot it. That's my goal this year, to get my son a big one out of the grizzly where he can be in there hanging out, doing whatever. And when they come up, get him set with his crossbow, and he can make it happen.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've heard, and I've been trying to listen to Bobby Worthington a lot, but one of the things I've heard him talk about a lot, and Joe talked about this even during our thing at Winter Strong, was so many times people try to set up over the food, but the mature bucks, they're smart enough not to come in to the food usually in daylight unless it's the rut, I mean, not during the rut, but unless they're like after the rut, maybe you get them where they've lost a ton of weight, but most of the time the mature buck that you really want to shoot is waiting until nighttime to feed. Where you can kill them is in transit right to the food. So like you said, if you can figure out how are they getting to that food source and then set up somewhere along the way, that's where your best chance is. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you do this season, man. I appreciate you jumping on with me, and can't wait I'm going to shoot out against you against Winter Strong next year, see how I do.
Come on.
You'll be the man to beat. You're going to be the man to beat.
Coming with my strap to defend.
That's right. Thanks for jumping on, Corey. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Have a good one.
This section of the podcast is brought to you by Osseo Gear. With its one-of-a-kind Raptor camo pattern, Osseo blends seamlessly into the whitetail woods. Osseo's features and technology are designed to fit the unique needs of the bowhunter. With a lifetime warranty, Osseo is designed by bowhunters for bowhunters. Use the code DONOTGO20 to get 20% off any order from the Osseo Gear website. Visit them at osseogear.com. Elevate your game with Osseo.